Sam, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe, Two in Love, here with your Sports Hobby Topics Picks edition for, as you'll be seeing this Thursday, but nonetheless, I'm recording on Wednesday night. Um, but nonetheless, it's going to be a fun edition on the podcast today. Um, Finally, as I mentioned, en route to Super Bowl 58. We'll go over the 4 divisional round matchups today on the podcast, give our preview and prediction. UFC 297 as well is on Saturday, and we go over that. Should be a fun card to tune in. Underrated card with a fun main event, certainly, but we shall go over best we can, and as well as some news and rumors, whichever's going on in the sports world today. But nonetheless, thank you all for joining me. Like, subscribe. There you go. Notification bell somewhere over there. When you click subscription box, guys know the drill. But nonetheless, thank you, and let's get going. So, first off, since there's only 4 games and don't want to take up too much time in the beginning, but we shall go over. So, 4 fun matchups, as I mentioned, down to the final 8. So, let's go over. So, the Texans and the Ravens. Oh boy, this is definitely the most underrated game of the weekend. You know, Chiefs Bills getting the majority love, as go figure. But yeah, Chiefs Bills getting most of the love for this weekend. Tampa and Detroit, I'd say as well. But this is an interesting task for the Texans, C.J. Stroud, because they clean house with that Cleveland Browns defense. Yes, the 2 pick sixes certainly helped from Joe Flacco, but they were having their way, moving the ball up and down the field. And we know the Browns have split with the Ravens this season. Last game in Baltimore was that big late game or big second half of Deshaun Watson and then the game-winning field goal by Dustin Hopkins. But nonetheless, this fun matchup. Ravens, 9.5-point favorites. You know, they should, I guess, I wouldn't say should, I would say probably will get Mark Andrews back this weekend. You know, he was activated off or was designated to return off IR. Fully practiced today. Great feeling there. But yeah, it will certainly be another test to see how C.J. Stroud's rookie season has come. And, you know, Ravens, you know, Lamar Jackson sat in that abysmal, rainy game in Baltimore against the Steelers, week 18. And then, of course, they had the bye. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be the key to not be as they don't want to fall flat like they kind of did or look rusty when they did 4 years ago against the Titans when they got the 1 seed in Lamar Jackson's MVP season and lost. 1-1. I think Lamar Jackson knows that, and I think they know that they have to come firing at will. And here's the thing. If Nick Chubb was healthy, I feel that the Browns would have been able to slow down that pace of the game and the pace of the Texans' offense. But, with how the culture shift pretty much changed this year in Cleveland, they had to try for a shootout. So, we know how much the Ravens love the ball. I'm pretty sure when they have the ball, they're going to have to keep running it. Now, no Keem Mitchell, because, again, he hurt himself in that game versus the Niners. But nonetheless, it should be a fun game. I expect the Texans to put up a fight. I'm going to say 27-17 Ravens. So they barely cover. Packers at Niners Saturday night. 49ers, 9.5-point favorites. Same line. So, again, I said to my dad that the Cowboys should win, but unless they fall flat. They fell flat against the Packers. Their defense was like Eagles' defense and Cowboys' defense were both non-existent, really, this weekend. So, a different task going into San Francisco. Now, again, what I said about Baltimore will be the key about Niners. Because they had to bye. They did not play Brock Purdy Week 18 against the Rams and they lost. So, the key, certainly key there. Definitely a different animal with this defense. Because you got, again, Chase Young, Bosa, Hargrave, Warner, Greenlaw. Aaron Jones, if he can't run the ball as well as he did against Dallas, Jordan Love is going to have to pick up more of the slack. And he did very well. He did well against Cowboys. Didn't do great, but he did well. Make throws when you need to. But it feels like Love is going to have to do more unless, like I said, 49ers fall flat. But I think we're betting that does not happen. So I'm going to say 30-20. Niners win at home. Then Sunday, this will be fun. We got the Lions Hosting the Buccaneers, yes. The Lions, like I said, have a second home playoff game. One more thing about the Packers. Their young receivers against the secondary of the Niners will be an interesting test. You know, Deshaun Gibson, I love him in the secondary. Their other safety, who is filling nicely for Ufunga, that's going to be an interesting test. But now going back to Buccaneers and the Lions. The Lions 6.5-point favorites at home. Lions, it was a unique game by their offense against the Rams. First few drives, their offense just seemed mowing and mowing. Their O-line was just kept moving forward. They're definitely the engine of that offense and that team. Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, Panay Sewell, etc. So, now against Vea, Tron Shoinka, it's certainly going to be a tough ass by Bucks D line, but at the same time, they were able to they didn't have a great pressure game against well, it felt like 70-30 in a way. It's like they got great pressure, especially towards the second half. Levante David, that crew, Shaq Barrett. But this is going to be a unique battle again in trenches. Now, seeing Tristan Wirfs versus Aiden Hutchinson again, that'll be fun. But going back to the Lions Buccaneers previous matchup where the Lions won 20-6 in Tampa. Let's go back to that game really quick. So yeah, going back to that game, I remember Goff made some good throws, and then Baker, there were a few throws where it's like just a little out of reach, just out in sync, but again, for Hutchinson, McNeil, Houston, it's going to be a fun battle. And now the thing is for Tampa, I think the Lions secondary has shown that there are creases. There is leaks in that secondary. And makes up for big plays we saw last week. Nakua went for almost 200 yards in his playoff debut. And, that was the key for the Rams sticking in the game. So, certainly key, and I expect this to be a fun game. I'm going to say 26-17. Or no, wait. 24-17. Lions win over Tampa. Should be a fun game. But yeah, I trust that the Lions defense will be more disciplined than the way the Eagles was last Monday night. So that'll be fun as. And then the cherry on top of the cake for the division round matchups. Chiefs at Bills. Bills 2.5-point favorites at home. We know drill. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. This time in Orchard Park. Josh Allen has beaten Mahomes a number of times in Arrowhead in the regular season, but ultimately when it counts in postseason, 13 seconds, the AFC Championship the year before, on and on. This time, though, it's in Orchard Park, which should ultimately help. That's for one. For the Bills to have the energy on their side. The other thing is Bills won. Now again, I said they probably should have lost in the regular season game, but Kadarius Toney offsides. That's how it works. And that's really what started this whole momentum for the Bills. Five games coming in the last week, being the Steelers at home by 2 scores. So I expect this to be a close game. Now, here's the thing. The Miami Dolphins, again, sorry about that game, they looked like a warm weather team in the cold. And good with the bad. But we know how the Dolphins have struggled with above 500 teams, first and foremost. And the Chiefs' defense really reigns supreme. And Rashee Rice certainly had a good game. Now, defensive injuries are worrisome if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. There was Rasul Douglas and number pieces out. So it says Douglas plans to return versus the Chiefs. So that's going to get back. I expect then, if he's back, him to guard Rashee Rice. Of course, I expected Ramsey to guard Rice last week, and they didn't do it. Now, Kincaid, Kelsey, that's another thing. 2 of the best tight ends today. That's going to be fun. matchup in and of itself. But you just feel like if there was time for them to beat the Chiefs and Mahomes in the playoffs, it'd be now. I mean, in Buffalo, Chiefs are not the same on offense, but they are swell still on defense. So I think that's the thing. So I'm going to go 28-24. Bills win. So that would be the test and ask certain. UFC 297 is making way for Saturday, which it's always nice to talk about UFC fights or fights in general when a big pay-per-view card is coming up. Yes, I have missed a couple of free fight cards, but nonetheless, I have kept up. But nonetheless, here's to say for UFC 297, some good fights to make around. So first, the main event of the prelims. So we got two-time Ultimate Fighter finale champion Brad Katona going one-on-one with Garrett Armfield. So, interesting battle for Katona. Again, to prove its worth in the UFC. Arnold Allen, one of the best against Movsar Evloev. Interesting battle here with Movsar favored number 9 versus number 4 in a key battle at featherweight. So keep up with that. Chris Curtis, who wasn't that too long ago where he had a battle versus Kevin Gastelum. Now he's fighting Marc-Andre Burial. Apologize if I butchered his name, but yeah, keep up with that. Neil Magny, who last we saw get walloped pretty much by Ian Gary. He's going to have to bounce back heavily, and here he draws another comer in Mike Mallet, and Magny is the underdog. So, Neil Magny, he's in one of those guys where it's like he's very good. He's almost it's sad to say, but he's kind of gatekeeper-ish. He's fought some of the top ranks, but unfortunately he hasn't really gotten to that title discussion, really. But we'll see if he can wipe out that bad performance from against Gary. Which, credit to Gary. He had a great, solid performance. Excuse me. Raquel Pennington versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Number 2 versus number 3 in the women's bantamweight. This is actually for the vacant women's bantamweight title. So, high stakes there. See, the women's divisions kind of have been on edge as of recently because Amanda Nunes, won both the bantamweight and then the featherweight, and then now she's retired, but interesting task to see who is the next champion away from Amanda Nunes' long reigns. So, and then the big one, Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. What of a turn of events. This is going to be a fun outing, certainly for the middleweight strap. Because, I mean, after Plessis stopped Whitaker, had that confrontation with, Adesanya, and then is making rounds how that fight, is going to get made for Australia. And then, of course, Dricus said he wasn't healthy enough, so they went with Adesanya versus Sean Strickland, and that kind of backfired on Adesanya because instead Strickland put on the performance of his life and the performance of his career, took the title from Adesanya. Now it's Adesanya not getting an immediate rematch, and then we got Strickland versus du Plessis. And I hate this camera getting. So, Strickland versus du Plessis. So, Dricus, I mentioned, two great fights, back to back, or two great performances last go around. Stopping Derek Brunson and then stopping Robert Whitaker, dude has the tools, and he's a physical specimen pretty much. Against Strickland, who, I mean, he's lanky, he's like not physically imposing as much, but he has craft to back it up. I mean, since he lost to Alex Pereira, it's been a roll, his last fight before he fought. I want to check. So, but yeah, Strickland, particularly his last two fights, has been on a roll. Come to an end with that big win over Adesanya, where I'm not sure if Adesanya just took him lightly or if it's just when he felt the power of Strickland, he was like, oh, but I mean, yeah, he beat Imavov, Magomedov, and then Adesanya. The last three fights, 3-5 win streak. So, fun fight there. Strickland favored. It's interesting. Both guys have power. Strickland, we know, can provide pressure as well. But we know we've seen a bit of Plessis' ground game. And same with Strickland. So these guys certainly have the ropes for both. But I don't know. I just think, the way the clock turns, it'd be fun. And I'm just going with du Plessis to win this strap, win this title. And then we perhaps see Adesanya versus Plessis, or we get. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. Strickland, yeah. Certainly interesting. We'll see. But really, I could see it go either way. So, some basketball news we gotta go over, as well as some football news. Gotta say, so first off, my apologies, Jason Kelsey. So, Jason Kelsey, you know, he has pushed back on the retirement rumors, and I mentioned, put it up part of the thumbnail that Kelsey tired. I mean, I'm just following up on seeing what I see reports. I apologize. He said he still hasn't made a decision, but that's kind of how it is sometimes. Sometimes not all the sometimes reports aren't true, and gotta hear from the horse's mouth. Um, so my apologies for jumping the gun. My apologies, Jason Kelsey. And if you heard me in the previous video, I'd be happy as a fan for Kelsey not to be retired, because he is certainly one of my favorite players, certainly my favorite on the Eagles right now. Well, him, Lake Johnson, and AJ Brown, I'd say, are probably my favorite players currently on the Eagles. But yeah, Mike McCarthy. So it was very possible after that beatdown at the hands of the Packers in the playoffs, you know, for Jerry to just say, screw it. Okay, we have to go with something different, and then, fire McCarthy, hire someone else. Dan Quinn's gonna take another job somewhere. So I mean, we'll see. Dak even um, was questioned if his job security. See, here's the thing. Dak and McCarthy, they both deserve a good amount of blame for that performance. Because Dan Quinn, too. He's going to be hired, but certainly deserves some form of blame, because that defense just not show up. Not show up against Packers. What do you want to say? They were not coached. Now, at the same time, McCarthy wasn't the one who threw those two interceptions. One was pick six. One led to a quick touchdown, which sent him in a hole. I mean, I saw a thing that Steve Mariucci said the other day, and I think it makes sense. Bill Belichick is available. Jim Harbaugh is available. Mike Vrabel available, etc. You know, if one of those coaches, same with Pete Carroll, technically he's available. If an upgrade is available, then it makes sense to dump McCarthy. At the same time, they've had 3 straight 12-win seasons. Credit, not success in the playoffs, but, if tenders for a coach, is not interested, or they're not interested as you'd hope for his roster, then you keep McCarthy and probably not taking a rest on one of these college coaches or someone younger as an assistant. But yeah, anyway, just how it goes. But Mike McCarthy is still the head coach. So the question is, does this give Dak, I guess, more security? Because, Dak has no trade clause, no tag clause. So, this is a weird year. I mean, again, as a guy after being the Seahawks and being the Eagles, I said, yeah, he belongs in the MVP conversation. But again, we like Dak, but that contract, in that great category, it's going to be questioned. He had a very good regular season, but yeah. Thoughts and prayers go out to the family of, well, one more thing about football. Pete Carmichael fired from the New Orleans Saints. He now former offense coordinator. Was under tutelage of Sean Payton, was with the Saints for 18 seasons. It's certainly a different role for the Saints going into next season because they finished 9-8, with all the questions. Dennis Allen will return as head coach. They have a bunch of veterans, but they certainly underwhelmed, I think you could say. So, now thoughts and prayers out to the family of Dejan Milojevic. Apologize if I butchered his name, but Warriors assistant coach passed away too early at the age of 46. Apparently, there was a team meeting last night, and it was believed to be a heart attack, and he had a medical emergency, which caused the Warriors to postpone their game. That is tonight, or currently now, while I'm recording this. And yeah, it's unfortunate. 46, too young. Was coach in Serbia. Then shortly, a couple years ago, joined Steve Kerr's staff and was part of that 2022 title team for the Warriors. But yeah, rest in peace, Dejan, and thoughts, prayers out. There was a 3-team trade today in the NBA because there's always 3-team trades. Always interesting to see how they wind up. Pascal Siakam, the main category for this trade. So, Indiana Pacers, currently the 6th seed, with Tyrese Halliburton at the helm. Now, there are some rumblings about Siakam, moving from the Raptors after that unique trade between the Knicks and the Raptors now comes to a head as Siakam, traded now from Toronto, was an all-star last year, averaged almost 25 points a game. And, nonetheless, he's still only 29. There's a good amount of parity in the East, I would say, and the NBA, because, for the East in particular, the Celtics, the Bucks, 76ers, and then there's an edge for that fourth best team. Heat, same with the Knicks, Pacers, now with getting Siakam, it's certainly going to be a good thread with Miles Turner, Buddy Fields. It's going to be fun to see. As for the Raptors, they got Bruce Brown, Jordan Wall. Want to make sure get this all right. Jordan Noara, and Kiera Lewis. 3 first-round picks to Toronto. And the Pelicans got... Let me check. This is why I love recording, so I can, hit the nail on the head. So the Pelicans sent a second-round pick to Indiana. And they sent Kiera Lewis, to the Raptors. So there you go. Bruce Brown, interesting role player who came alive in the Nuggets NBA championship run. And now he's in Toronto. So we'll see. But Toronto's been very greedy at trade deadline, it seems. Now they got Barrett. They trade for him quickly from the Knicks. And then now trade Siakam, but then they get, Bruce Brown, etc. They got rid of Van Fleet to the Rockets. Yeah, we'll see. But Raptors have been busy. But nonetheless, that is what I had on the podcast today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, 4 good games for 4 good NFL playoff games for this weekend. So catch up should be fun. And then, yeah, UFC 297 on Saturday. So catch up with that as well as basketball, etc. Keep going forward, guys. Keep up with the likes. Keep up with subscriptions. Let's keep going. But nonetheless, thank you guys. Be safe. See you guys next time. Next week. Peace. Like. Thumbs up.